So good afternoon, everybody. This is Daniel. I'm one of the directors here at the English Language Institute. And today we are going to speak with one of our alumni who took our pre-academic English program with us a few years ago. And he has since moved on to studying at undergraduate at Pace University. With us today, we have Dimitrios. Welcome, Dimitrios. Thank you for speaking with us about your experience. Do you want to just quickly share, where you're from and what you've been doing for the last few years?
I'm Dimitrios Kazanis. I'm from Cyprus, specifically from Nicosia, which is the capital of the Cyprus. I'm studying at Pace University, mathematics and economics, BA undergraduate degree. I am a junior right now, second semester, spring 2021. And okay, I'm just living in the dorms, like something like which is rare to hear from students at Pace that they live in dorm in this situation with everything online, but it's more motivated for me to stay in the dorms and next to the school because I want to study more. I want to have all the resources next to me and not, if I'm back home, it's very difficult to have all the resources as library, printers, books, or like some people, we are like taking same class together and we can exchange notes.
So when you were, I'm just curious about, I've known you for many years now. I've known your family. If you can think back to when you first started looking at schools,
yes,
I know it was a while ago. What were you looking for in a school to study English? Because you did start English with us first at Pace. Do you remember what was kind of important to you, and why did you want to travel, to the US? Why was that important to you?
I came to US for one reason, basically, because my sibling is here. My brother is in Stanford, Connecticut, but he was in New York, in Harlem. And my sister, she's in Boston. She was in Boston, but she moved to Augusta. She's working there. And how I pick Pace, it was my sister-in-law find out that Pace University, they have ELI language institute to learn like some international students. They didn't ask in like TOEFL or some exams, because some other university was asking, oh, did you took TOEFL? Did you took SATs or IELTS, etc. And we found that Pace it was very lucky. I was lucky because my sister-in-law, she was working in the courts like next to Pace, and she saw like a sign that we're teaching English here without like, just teaching English. And he said to my parents this, and my parents looked on the internet like, oh, it's very nice campus, so why not? And I was in army that period of the time, and they was telling me that we're going to do together the application, and we put, my mother's email, so we can get the answers immediately and just answer for you. So because you are in the army, you cannot like answer immediately and stuff. And basically, I choose Pace because my sister-in-law found out, and
Okay.
they helped me too much. Like also they helped me to adapt into American culture.
We hear that a lot. A lot of our students, their family refers them because maybe they're local, in New York. They walking by. I mean, Pace is right at the Brooklyn Bridge. So there's a huge sign that says Pace University that thousands of people every day see when they go across the Brooklyn Bridge, I think.
And also
so it's great.
And also they have you can already know this, the sign. And when you drive in on the curve of the Brooklyn Bridge, you can see it like very clearly.
Yeah, driving on the Brooklyn Bridge, you get to see Pace
very clearly.
So I usually get a lot of questions from students about the visa interview. So not the questions, but just, the overall process. Like, do you remember it being very difficult, or,
No, it
do you
was,
remember it being maybe easier than you thought it would be? I'm just curious
I
because
would
that's something
say,
students usually want to know.
yeah, I would say like I'm a little bit different because I came more times in US. So I
Okay.
have the background
Okay.
here. But I think like from my perspective is that if you go the first time like to get the visa for come to learn ELI English, you should ask like somebody translator because sometimes you probably don't get everything they saying to you and you have difficult to answer and they don't like they can say oh you cannot go in. They don't give you the visa. And the other thing that I recommend to the new student they're going to get the visa and this the first time they need to have confidence.
Competence.
Because if you don't have a confidence, they don't see the interviews that you want to learn English and you try to learn it and you want to go to make something different than the country you are or something that you want to change your life.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Maybe, you might be a little nervous because it isn't everybody be nervous going
It's
to
not
like
the
a government office, but
yeah, government.
maybe if you can just show how excited you are about traveling, maybe it'll be a little easier for you just to talk about it.
Yes, and also confidence because sometimes if you go there and you try to say that, oh, I want to travel to US because I want to learn English and I want to improve. No, I want to improve my English and also I want to try to get to a college, to one college, and I want to improve my SAT score or my TOEFL score or my ELI IELTS score.
Mm-hmm.
Then going to say that, oh, this person he want to go to work. You know, it's difficult if you say I'm going to learn English and improve my English.
Yeah, so maybe sharing your plan is really important too, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
they
better.
just know you've thought about it. I think that's
Yeah,
good.
and from my interview, the only thing that I'm going to recommend to everyone, like for all my interviews that I have, and I'm going to recommend is that you need to be specified. What are you doing? You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to say I'm going to New York. You need to say I'm going to New York to study English at Penn University. So they don't going to ask you second question, what are you doing in New York? So you need to make
Yeah.
it be the process.
So that
With,
goes back to, again, know your plan and just share your plan with
then
them. So when you got to New York, do you remember what that was like for the first time? Like, what was that adjustment like
the
for
first
you?
time you meet as ELI student
Yeah,
or
like to live here,
oh,
you're
yeah, yeah,
moving, you weren't going to be in Cyprus
it
anymore.
was big dramatical change from
Okay.
it was a big change. Like for me, it was difficult because you transfer your own words, like in Greek to English, and you make your life based on classes and not based on, for example, based on work or based on um, be an undergraduate degree. Because if you study English, you need to focus on learning English at school,
Mm-hmm.
apply them to the outside of school, and also to can make them as useful in your life. Because if you don't know how to speak, I know from my experience, you cannot get food. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't know how to explain to the people that I want this specific food, you cannot get it. So the change is that I need to use the English for every single day. And it was daily life. So for me was English, like every day to speak English and change my thoughts. Like do not watch like Greek movies or listening Greek thing. I need to watch only in English, start like reading in English or speaking in English and not like just separately some my my own language back and put my the culture of American and the language of America.
So it's not just a matter of traveling, to the United States to learn English is enough. Like, you have to really try to do everything in
Yes,
English. And
adapt you need to adapt into the new culture you're living now. I know if I go to China, I need to adapt to China culture, which is language,
Right.
religion, all this stuff.
Right.
Also celebration in US, and Thanksgiving, St. Patrick's Day, all this stuff. My sibling learning this stuff. So you need to adapt into the celebration, so you can be like American.
That must have been a little exciting too, right? To learn the new holidays and the
Yeah.
traditions.
It was awesome, like St. Patrick's Day, and like we celebrate it.
Oh, okay.
And or Thanksgiving, I knew it because my parents was telling me like, oh, today's the Thanksgiving holiday in US, or today's the Halloween in US. So
Mm-hmm.
they was trying very much to adapt me from young in
Mm-hmm.
American culture and not like in Cypriot culture.
Okay. Do you remember any classes in particular that were really helpful for you or that you enjoyed the most while you were studying at the English program?
And I can tell you the names. The name is the Advanced Pronunciation. It was
Okay.
very useful because you're learning how to pronounce the words, so you can be more close to American, so they can understand you more clearly and can help you with your concern or your issue in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And also I was taking reading and vocabulary. It was very helpful because, for example, now I'm taking more reading, from
Right.
school based on like mathematics, for example, which is my major. The time I'm reading, I learn I know how to read one specific article. Like you need to read the introduction to understand what the topic is going to speak about. You're going to continue body paragraph and understand more deeply, and go to conclusion to see what the author is concluding. So in the reading was same way, like they was teaching you how to read and how to separate some paragraph and the ideas, and how to get the vocabulary, the more difficult vocabulary.
What were some strategies? Do you remember like any tips
Like
from that class?
the reading, yes. I remember the vocabulary that you need to repeat every day the same words for 21 days, because you remember them better than reading them the last day before the exam.
Right.
And I think I remember who was the professor. I remember her name, I remember her face.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, I think you're also doing 2 degrees now at undergraduate, so I can only imagine how much reading and vocabulary you need. And also the academic vocabulary, can be rather challenging because it's not vocabulary you would learn every day that you get from like the textbooks and stuff. Do you remember any, like, I'm just trying to think, because I know you did our academic English program.
Yeah,
and that one's, usually a semester long and
90.
090 level, yes. And
I remember that it was basically we learned how to read like a very difficult articles, like from New York Times.
mm-hmm.
We learned how to write a research paper with the APA style, like in references. And also we learned how to get in the abstract from other research paper and just write our notes, so we can refer to the notes and write our own words in our own words. And the other thing that I remember is that they told us that when you're reading abstract, you don't need to read all the research paper. You just need to read the abstract, take notes, like notes, base notes, and not like write everything down. And when you're going to write your research paper, when you have the same idea, you're going to see the research paper and read all the research paper and write something better.
So then, yeah, learning the technique about really understanding the abstract helps you decide like how valuable, how important is this paper for me, and how will it help me in my classes.
Yeah, and it's very important research paper for undergraduate degrees, because in the end of, like, when you're senior, you need to write a research paper based on your major. which is I'm writing mathematics and economics.
So we talked a lot about what you're doing now. What was the transition like going to undergraduate?
Oh,
And how has your experience been, at Pace as an undergraduate student? It's been a few years now.
it was big change for me because
Yeah,
when you learn in English, you're doing like certain things. You don't do something out of the box.
right.
When you go to the mathematics, you do like mathematics, 3 classes that English, like 1 or 10, like writing academy writing, I think, or writing something, other specific,
Some type of writing course.
something to write like essays and how to write this stuff. I already knew, so it was easy for me. The other was communication, which was a-okay, something which was out of my degree. And the other one was digital design, which is out of my degree. So basically, in undergraduate degree, the big change is that you study your major, but you study also other stuff. You don't study only your major, you study also history, communication, arts, everything. So you need to be aware of the class.
I know that's very specific to, I think, to the US higher education and colleges. And when I talk to international students a lot, they do comment on that because it's very different in some countries. Have you found that though to be helpful? Like, have you enjoyed learning things maybe that weren't just math?
It's helpful because when you go to see something like in economics,
right,
you can remember it from other classes. For example, economics related to history. It's straight related to history. Like you see a graph from 1945, for example, to 2021. You need to know the history, because if you don't know the history, you don't know why is in depression, why is some cycle, right? Why is up, why is down the graph. So if you don't know the history, you cannot read the graph. So it's a good way, the American system. I think it's good way, but sometimes getting a little bit annoying for some students.
Yeah, I think it's just a difficult maybe transition or something they're just not used to. Yeah. So I know you've been busy because I've seen you on campus in different student jobs. So a lot of our students also, they're always very curious about, when I go to undergraduate, when I go to a school like Pace, a big part of Pace is professional career preparation. A lot of our students, graduate having done a lot of internships, lots of on-campus work experiences like yourself. Is there anything, you want to share with students about what that experience has been like, and basically what type of maybe internships you might have done, or just your on-campus jobs?
Okay, like I'm working 3 jobs on campus. Like I am a math tutor, research assistant, a math coach.
Wow.
I found that from the career services, because when I asked them, how I can find which is the link to find a job on campus. Because as an international student, to go out of campus, you need to have internship based on your major. I was I didn't have so much knowledge, so I can get a job out of campus. So I say, try in on campus first, and after out of campus, off campus. Sorry. I was speaking to career services. They told me, what do you want to try? I say, probably try tutoring, research, like helping people with disabilities, all this thing. They tell me, what is your grade in your academic on math, basically.
Okay.
And I had A in some classes. It was a very good grade. And then I apply, and they send me, we need to see you interview. When you go to interview, they ask you some questions, how to solve the problem and stuff. My advice is to international students, when you go as an undergraduate, first semester freshman, is to start connecting with professors, because the professors, they're going to suggest you to the jobs, because
They can make a recommendation.
because as a math tutor, my math professor suggests me, and also the math supervisor there, he knew me because I was going always there. I was trying to fix my math problem. I was trying to learn. So they say, oh, you can come to work with us. The research assistant was Michael Roosevelt that helped me on this. I told him that I want to do research. He was my advisor, and I told him what I need to do. And he told me, oh, I'm going to recommend you to one professor. And he recommended me, and after like a couple of months, I got the research assistant job. The math coach was basically, I got it from my tutoring center, because they said to you like, oh, you're a math tutor, so you can help people with disabilities or student with disabilities. So I just transfer like from one department to the other department, just because I was a tutor. Wasn't like connection or somebody talked about me.
The networking is really important.
Yes, connections, and also show up to the like career fair.
And now, I mean, your resume and CV, you have a lot of work experience, right? So by the time you graduate, you're going to have a pretty long resume for someone that I know when you started, you didn't have as much, the professional experience. That's great.
Together, we did the application to become an undergraduate degree. I was surprised that I went to army. Now it's now out of my resume, doesn't have the armies out.
And that's what happens, like I tell the students all the time when I work with them, like over time, your resume will always change, and, it'll get longer, but you'll also start taking things out, when you go to graduate school and start working afterwards, like it'll always evolve. And that's good. You're always doing opportunities. So you're a math tutor, you're a math coach, you're a research assistant, you're doing 2 degrees. What do you do for fun outside of class? Like, how do you spend your weekends and things? Because I know also, you're in New York City, at the New York City campus. So what do you do for fun?
Yes, like before COVID, I was attending, we have organizations that they attend, like they say movie night or like play night or game night. I was going, for example, Honor College, which I'm not into, but they say open game night, come to see us. And I was going with this situation, you make friends. So when you make friends, you don't need to go none of this event, because you're meeting to your friends. So you're meeting with your friends and you pick which event you want to go.
Right.
And after, now during COVID, because I have friends and I don't attend this stuff because it's online, I prefer like going like to my brother in Stafford. So I go out of the city so I can relax my mind, and also go out of my like my area, and also don't study a lot of because I'm studying always, and I don't have so much free time right now. So
right. Yes, you're busy. So what would you say if someone asked you though about, what's the best parts about being a student in somewhere like New York City? Like, what would you say to them?
You never feel lonely.
You never feel lonely? That's good.
My mother told me this. She say always, you come to New York, she say, you never feel lonely. So it's true.
Like, there's always somebody around, right?
Yes, always. Like if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you go to get something from Dunkin' Donuts, you see homeless, or you see people like taking things to into CVS, or bringing the newspaper at 4 o'clock in the morning. You're never feeling lonely, I think.
And then just because I know you're in the residence hall too, kind of one of my last questions is about that. Would you recommend the residence hall experience to students if they could do it, or like what's important to you about that?
For 2 reasons. First, you adapt to American culture, so you're learning English. You make friends that they are next to you, and when you are like depressed or you have something, you can speak to them. So you can have someone to share your experiences, and also you feel like better in your heart. And the second thing is that you are next to pay. So basically, if you have to print something very quickly, none of the international students in their home, like out of campus, they have printers. They print
Right.
school because they give us like $13 from printers. So if you are next to school and you need like 2 minutes to walk there, you prefer to be in on campus living and have all the facilities next to you for like some
Right.
comfortable stuff.
Yeah, so for PACE 2, all the residence halls, you can just walk to the class
Very
and be there in like 5 minutes. You can go to the gym, the cafeteria, the library, like you said, printing. So
then gym is closed right now because
gym is closed right now. Yeah, so in the normal time,
normal, yes,
it will be like that. Yeah.
next semester maybe. They say next semester it will be in-person classes. I heard from people they saying that maybe next semester will be in-person classes.
Right. So yeah, just at the time that we're recording this now, we're still in the spring semester and there's COVID still. And PACE they have in-person, they have online, they have combined, high flex. There's lots of different class options, but some of the spaces are closed right now for safety, like the gym. So we're coming up on time. I guess I just kind of want to know, if there's anything else you want to share with students who might be nervous about moving to the United States, or whether to study English or a degree, is there anything you'd say?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend like to the new student that coming to US, not to be afraid to ask. If you don't ask, you don't learn. It's the best code. Like my father told me that you need to ask. If you don't ask, you don't learn the answer. So you still be in the, you're going to be on the unknown part. So you need to
Right.
be asking people. For example, if you get lost in the, you go in somewhere and you get lost, just ask. So you learn the English, also how to ask the question, and so how to listen accent, the New York accent, because New York accent is different from other states.
I think that's great advice. You have to just ask questions and don't be afraid to ask questions. I would like to think as a New Yorker, people, they are very kind and they'll answer your questions and they'll help you.
Very happy.
And I think with New York being such an international city too, like you shouldn't be nervous being a foreigner, or worrying that you have an accent and you're asking, questions. I think people in New York in particular are very used to that. We all have accents here.
Everyone have accents, yeah, because we're in different states. Like people are coming from New Jersey, from Connecticut, from Texas to work here. So we have New Yorker accents, but it's very rare to hear it because
Right.
it's more mixed.
Well, Dimitrios, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, your very busy schedule. I know, again, we know that you have lots of jobs, and I know you're also doing some volunteering with the international students and your program. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll share this with all of our students and families that have questions about studying at Pace University in New York, whether it's for degree programs or for the English Language Institute.